Today's first case is about a man they've nicknamed Horrible Howie, and boy has he earned that title. Howard Rubin is a wealthy Wall Street trader who was hiding some incredibly dark secrets, and we will dive into all of the details. Our second case is the murder of June Bunyan, a Scottish woman who fell in love with a man online and moved to the US to help others live their dreams. But her life was cut short, and her husband detailed everything he did to her in his suicide note. But ironically, he survived and is now standing trial. Let's get into it.
We begin at 6 with allegations of horrifying acts behind closed doors of a Manhattan penthouse. Retired New York financier Howard Rubin and his personal assistant are accused of spending $1 million to recruit women to engage in sex acts that sometimes turned violent.
A local financier is accused of using a penthouse apartment on West 57th Street as a sex dungeon.
Hi, I'm Katie Ring, and this is Crime House Daily, your weekday true crime companion. We follow the cases making headlines now, where justice is still unfolding. This is a First Watch episode bringing you today's biggest crime stories. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Crime House Daily so you never miss an episode. This episode discusses active criminal cases and breaking news. The information we share is based on what's publicly available at the time of recording and may change as new evidence comes to light. We aim to inform, not to decide guilt or innocence, so everyone mentioned is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Before we get into today's cases, I wanted to talk about another one that has stuck out to me. A Florida woman, 60-year-old Bonnie Tegens, is being held without bond right now on second-degree murder and tampering with evidence charges. She's accused of murdering her 64-year-old husband with a billy club and calling her son later that night to tell him 3 words: "Dad was dead." Deputies were called to their home to investigate a report of a possible deceased person, and that's where they found Bonnie in the garage, standing near the washing machine, next to a blood-soaked blanket. She was in the process of pressing the start cycle on the washing machine to allegedly destroy potential evidence. Deputies followed a trail of blood droplets to a bedroom, where William was found face down with head wounds consistent with blunt force trauma. In the affidavit, Bonnie claims that her husband had sexually assaulted her earlier that day, so it will be interesting to see what else will be revealed as we wait for trial. As always, make sure to tune in to our socials at Crimehouse 24/7 for any updates. Our first case delves into the dark, twisted world of 70-year-old Howard Rubin, a retired Wall Street financier who may finally be paying the price for a decade of violent sexual crimes. Rubin allegedly used a personal assistant to lure multiple women and torture them in his penthouse condo before scaring them into silence. But in 2017, Rubin's victims stood together and spoke out against him and won their civil lawsuit. Howie thought paying off his victims would be enough, and his troubles were behind him. But behind the scenes, the feds were on his case. And on September 26, 2025, agents arrested both Howie and his assistant. As of this recording, he's being held without bail as the case moves forward. So how did we get here? Howard Rubin built a formidable Wall Street career working for Salomon Brothers, Merrill Lynch, Bear Stearns, and even Soros Fund Management. Howard seems to have it all. He's married, has 3 kids, is successful, and very rich. The 1% of the 1%. Howard's career hasn't been all smooth sailing though. In fact, it got off to a pretty rough start. In the late 80s, when he worked at Merrill Lynch, executives there blamed him for a $250 million loss after he made a series of unauthorized trades. To give some context, that would be about $700 million today. It was a huge blunder. Howard leaves the company, but others are still willing to give him a shot. Howard becomes a fund manager at Bear Stearns and later Soros Fund Management. Over the years, he keeps proving himself and is getting increasingly wealthy in the process. By this time, Howard has a few properties, but in 2011, he starts renting a penthouse in the Metropolitan Tower in Manhattan. That is putting him back $18,000 a month. For a man this wealthy, this is not surprising. But the odd thing is that this condo is only blocks away from his swanky Midtown apartment he lives at with his family. If I was his wife, I'd definitely be raising my eyebrows, because everyone knows what an apartment like this will be used for. And we are right in this assumption. Howard has some special plans for his new place, but he needs help to set everything up. So he ends up hiring a personal assistant, Jennifer Powers. Jennifer starts working for Howard in 2011 and is around 31 years old. Jennifer's main project is helping him decorate a special room in the penthouse. He's got a vision, and she's more than ready to execute. She starts by soundproofing the walls, painting them deep red, and finally furnishing the room. But not with tables and chairs, if you get where I'm going here. Jennifer stocks the room with various sex toys, including ropes, chains, zippered masks, metal hooks, and even an electric cattle prod. She also installs a St. Andrew's cross, which is an X-shaped device that a person can be chained to. Once the room is all ready, Jennifer begins searching for women that Howard can bring there. She finds women on social media, modeling websites, and even scouts Playboy models. Howard clearly wants women with certain physical attributes, but he is also interested in something else. He tells Jennifer to find women who are in desperate financial situations, and if they are struggling with substance abuse, it's even better. Howard feels that women in these situations are easier to take advantage of, so he can feel like a big, strong man. It always blows my mind how so many powerful men have the most fragile egos and deepest insecurities. There's a big difference between someone who may have an agreement in their marriage and wants to get a little freaky, consensually, of course, versus someone who makes these particular requests because they are gearing up to abuse people. In that case, you need to run, or you will be complicit in everything that happens after. Even if the girls are getting paid, it will still be abuse. Another thing to note that not a lot of people talk about is that almost all traffickers have a female recruiter, because women are more likely to lower their guard around other women. So if you're listening, please never trust a woman offering you something like this. Okay, back to the story. When Jennifer finds women who she thinks are a match, she contacts them and offers them about $5,000. Some she is honest with that this will be a sexual encounter. Others, she lures them under the ruse of this being a modeling gig. At Howard's instruction, Jennifer assures the women that there will be a safe word in place. But even the ones who agreed to the kinky sex proposal have no idea what they're walking into. So those who agree are flown to New York, and when they get there, they're asked to sign an NDA. On the surface, this might not seem that strange to women, since Howard is somewhat high profile and married with kids. Howard would usually take the women out to a nice dinner and get them drunk or even give them Valium. Then he takes them back to his penthouse and into the secret soundproofed room. But once Howard closes the door, all of the promises his assistant made go out the window. He's not just looking for kinky sex. What Howard Rubin allegedly does to these women is straight up torture. In 2011, Wall Street millionaire Howard Rubin enlists the help of his personal assistant Jennifer Powers to target vulnerable women and lure them into his secret sex dungeon. Jennifer tells the women that they would be paid thousands of dollars for kinky sex. But as soon as they step into Howard's condo and the door locks behind them, they realize it's a torture chamber. Howard throws the safe word out the window and brutalizes these women. He binds and gags women so forcefully they're not even able to speak. He then beats and tortures them, including electrocuting them. One woman is beaten so badly her breast implant flips over and has to get surgery to correct it. Even though Howard always ignores a safe word, women still find ways to show him they're not okay with the abuse. One woman fights out of the restraints and bites his finger so he'll stop hitting her. However, if Howard is unhappy with how the encounter goes, he tells Jennifer to pay the women less than promised. Still, this man is able to trap and assault multiple women a week because if any woman ever complained about Howard's abuse, he and Jennifer hold the NDAs over their heads and threaten them with taking legal action or public shaming if they dare to speak out. As a side note, please know that NDAs do not cover illegal activities, no matter how much they threaten you. Howie ends up spending about $1 million in payments. A few years in, Howard and Jennifer become so confident in their scheme, they send each other text messages about how excited they are for upcoming encounters. Jennifer often eggs Howard on and encourages him to badly hurt his victims. Not only is Jennifer twisted in her own way, but she's motivated by the lifestyle Howie offers her in exchange for luring his victims. He pays her rent on an apartment in Manhattan, the mortgage on a home in Texas, her credit card bills, and her children's private school tuition. It goes on like this for years until 2017, when multiple women come forward accusing Howard of physical assault and rape and file a multi-million-dollar civil suit against him. Howard denies the allegations, but the women don't back down, and in the end, they win their case against him, and Howard is ordered to pay $3.9 million to the victims. But money isn't all he loses. Following the revelations in the civil suit, Howard's wife divorces him in 2021. Jennifer also comes under scrutiny in the civil suit, but in 2022, she's not found liable for anything. By that point, she and Howard might think the dust has settled, but boy, are they wrong. Now that Howard's been found liable in civil court, federal authorities begin investigating him for criminal charges. For the next 3 years, they speak with 10 women who describe the ways Howard brutalized and coerced them into silence, and how Jennifer helped him. Their accusations span a decade, from 2009 to 2019. Some of the evidence the women provide includes Venmo or PayPal transactions, as well as medical documentation from treatment they received after Howard injured them. Finally, on Friday, September 26, 2025, FBI agents descend on Howard's home in Connecticut and arrest him. They also detain Jennifer in Texas. They are both charged with sex trafficking and transporting women in interstate commerce for sex acts. Authorities say in a statement, quote, "The defendants used Rubin's wealth to mislead and recruit women to engage in commercial sex acts, where Rubin then tortured women beyond their consent, causing lasting physical and/or psychological pain, in some cases physical injuries. On top of that, Jennifer and her husband, Stephen Powers, are charged in relation to millions of dollars of joint tax fraud. Howard is also charged with bank fraud for lying on his application for the mortgage on Jennifer's home. Both Howard and Jennifer plead not guilty to their charges. Jennifer is released on $850,000 bond, but has to wear an ankle monitor and stay on house arrest until her trial. Meanwhile, Howard is being held without bail. Federal prosecutors believe he's a flight risk because on top of everything else, they discovered an offshore bank account worth over $70 million in his name. And it's possible there's a lot more information yet to come out. Federal prosecutors say that Jennifer wasn't the only one helping Howard. They claim there are 10 other people involved in this. As of this recording, those people have not been charged with any crimes, but the authorities clearly have their eyes on them. Not only that, prosecutors also say there are dozens of other victims who haven't been named. We can only hope that as the case against Howard Rubin and Jennifer Powers continues, that the women get the justice they deserve. Today's second case is about a woman who came to the U.S. in search of success and love, just to have her whole life ripped away. On September 11th, 2025, 37-year-old June Bunyan's remains were found in her Los Angeles apartment. June's autopsy later showed that she may have been dead for a week before her body was found. 2 weeks later, on September 25th, June's husband, 25-year-old Jonathan Rentaria, was charged with her murder and dismemberment. Jonathan has pleaded not guilty and is being held on a $4 million bail. His next court date is scheduled for November 18th, 2025. Let's get into it. Born and raised in Scotland, June Bunyan's friends and family describe her as someone with a vibrant personality and deeply compassionate heart. And she's someone who can achieve whatever she sets her mind to. She's earned multiple degrees, but her true passion is law. So on top of her other accomplishments, June earns her law degree from Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen, Scotland. Afterward, in 2023, she comes to the U.S. to take the bar exam in hopes of someday becoming a defense attorney specializing in immigration law. June loves being in America. She settles into an apartment in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, which she decorates red, white, and blue. But her passion for the law isn't the only reason she comes to the States. She has also come for love. When she still lived in Scotland, June met a man named Jonathan Rentaria online. They struck up a long-distance relationship, and now June's in LA to be closer to him. But it's not long before things get rocky. In December of 2023, June files a restraining order against Jonathan. She says that he threatened to harm her immigration status after they got into an argument. And as things got more heated, he apparently threatened her life. He says some really aggressive things, like that she deserves to suffer, and he wishes she were dead. But Jonathan's tone completely changes a few weeks later. On January 17th, 2024, when he shows up for his hearing, he shows the court a text message from June, where she admits they've both overstepped their boundaries and need to work on things. Jonathan claims that he and June have spoken in person since she filed the order, and that she told him she changed her mind about it. The judge decides that they'll wait to hear June's side of things during her hearing, 5 days later. But when that day comes, June doesn't show up, and the case is dropped. The details about their relationship get even murkier from there, but June and Jonathan decide to stay together. Not only that, they get married. And in 2024, 1 year after June arrived in the U.S., she opens her own law practice and names it Rentaria Paralegal Services. She provides legal services and support to non-U.S. citizens trying to navigate their immigration cases. It's everything she's ever wanted. Although just because Jonathan's name is on her business doesn't mean the couple is doing well. Shortly after June opens her legal practices, she learns that she's pregnant. But what should be a happy time turns into constant torment because Jonathan regularly criticizes her weight gain. He says she's no longer his, quote, muscle mama, and his behavior doesn't improve when June gives birth to their daughter in the summer of 2025. Now, he criticizes her inability to lose weight immediately after giving birth. We don't know many details, but June tells one of her friends, quote, "The further I go into this marriage, the less I feel I can depend on him. I've never seen him so nasty before." Eventually, June tells the same friend that she's planning to leave Jonathan. On September 4th, 2025, June begins packing her bags. She tells Jonathan he'll never see his daughter again. When Jonathan hears this, he allegedly snaps and grabs June and begins strangling her. He's so blinded by rage he barely notices when June stops breathing, and he continues until she is completely lifeless. Jonathan finally realizes what he's done and starts to panic. He takes drugs to calm himself down, then drops his daughter off at his parents' house. After that, Jonathan goes back to the apartment where he left June's body. He dismembers her, then places her remains in plastic bags. However, Jonathan realizes that he'll never be able to escape the horrific reality of his own actions. he suddenly flees the apartment, leaving all of the evidence behind, and then checks into a nearby hotel. 1 week after he first checks in, on September 11th, Jonathan attempts to take his own life. Somebody nearby realizes something's wrong because the police arrive soon after, and they find Jonathan in the bathtub with a puncture wound on his arm, and they rush him to the hospital. But when officers see a handwritten note in the bathroom where Jonathan was found, they are shocked and disturbed. In his suicide note, Jonathan confessed in detail exactly what he did to his wife. In the note, he also provides the address to his apartment. Officers rush there immediately. They are already preparing themselves for a gruesome scene. But when they go inside, it is worse than they imagined. As soon as they enter June's apartment, the smell of decaying remains smacks them in the face. And when they go inside, they witness what Jonathan had done to her. June's body has been dismembered and left in multiple plastic bags. As the officers try and process the scene, the authorities notify June's family and friends about what happened, and they're understandably devastated. All her loved ones want now is for her to come home. They set up a GoFundMe to help with the cost of bringing June's remains back to Scotland. Meanwhile, the police are working to make sure her killer is held accountable. Once Jonathan is released from the hospital, he's placed under arrest. June's autopsy confirms that her cause of death was traumatic neck injuries. Jonathan is charged with murder and mutilation of human remains. But although he handed the police a confession on a silver platter through the suicide note, he pleads not guilty, and his attorneys are trying to argue that he suffered from psychosis after June threatened to take his daughter from him. With a lot of details still emerging on this case, we should find out soon if that means he's going for the insanity plea or if he's claiming he didn't kill June at all. A preliminary hearing has been scheduled for November 18th, 2025. And as always, we'll be sure to keep you posted on the case as we learn more. What did you think of today's cases? Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments. See you next time. If you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Crime House Daily and follow us on social media at Crime House 24/7 for real-time updates, because the pursuit of justice never stops.